All right, folks, I stayed up way past my bedtime to watch episode 3 of The Last of Us. Usually I watch these in the mornings, but tonight I had some meetings, I ended up drinking a bunch of coffee. I stayed up late, and I'm recording this at midnight, actually, here on January 30th. Third episode of Last of Us, The Last of Us. Um, Pretty big departure from the video game in terms of the story, but also, oh my goodness. I have thoughts. I have thoughts and things I want to say. But again, spoiler alert for those of you who might be new to my channel. Everything I do is full of spoilers. I talk about, all the things, the show, thoughts, reaction, everything. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, you'll want to go away and come back after you have. But if you've already watched it, you know the routine. Welcome back. Either way, if you haven't signed up yet, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's get in to my show notes. So we start off with this shot of Joel stacking stones by the river, and he just looks absolutely devastated. Obviously, he's dealing with the trauma of um, the loss of Tess. He's definitely hurting, grieving, but he's got this determined look in his face as well. And then I love this moment when he's into his bag and he pulls out the beef jerky and he goes to wad it back up and throw it back up in his bag, and then he pauses for a moment and he like side eyes Ellie and he finally just kind of chucks it to her at the last moment. And she's off rattling about bugs in the woods, and it's her first time in the forest, and he's dead silent. And she starts to bring up Tess, and he just interrupts her and, "I don't want your sorries." And then she gives this speech to him about, "Don't blame me for something that isn't my fault, because it was his and Tess's actions that drove them to this point in the first place, because they had to have that battery for this other thing, and she just happened to be the thing, the cargo that was being taken in exchange for the battery." She's just like, "This isn't my fault. You guys were willing to do whatever it took to get a battery, and I just happened to be ill on the way. So this isn't my, not my fault." But we're out in the wilderness now, and it's wide open spaces, completely quiet. It's just nature. Joel's wary, but he's not worried. And I guess the theory here is that the infected are more in the cities than they are out in the wilds, and here they're more conscious about other people on the road than anything else. When they finally get to Cumberland Farms, and um, Joel's all grumpy about how she's asking a lot of goddamn questions, and it looks like, I guess, this is a pit stop they set up for some, with gear for some occasions like this, but he can't find the gear because it's been a couple of years, and Ellie's giving him crap. And while he's off looking, she finds a trap door, and my inner scaredy cat was like screaming this whole time, "Do not go down into the basement area, you stupid child." But she, of course, does, and there's the noise that we knew we were going to hear. And there's an infected, but it's crushed under bricks, still alive, looking at her. And she has this moment of confrontation with it where she cuts into it with a knife and is like studying it before she finally just ends it, and shows that she's quite capable of taking care of things on her own. And I like the next step too here, because as they're about to leave, and he finds his stash, he leaves that machine gun down there because he's like, "I can't. You're not gonna be able to find ammo for that. It's just dead weight at this point." I thought that was a nice touch, just from the perspective of a resource management thing. If you were in survival mode and you wanted to be able to move quick and light, you're only taking necessities at this point. They've been out here enough over the years that they set up these um, caches to supply themselves if they need to, but he also knows that they can survive in the wild. So it's pretty cool stuff here. We also got a bit of a history lessons here as they're talking on the road and talking, and he's saying that everybody's best guess is that the food supply was contaminated, like flour, for example, which we kind of got the confirmation of in the previous episode, but it's telling it from his perspective now. And he's like, certain brands of foods like bread or even pancakes were served worldwide, delivered. Everybody wakes up Thursday morning, starts getting everything's on the shelves by that morning. They buy it by Thursday night or Friday morning. They're starting to eat, and then they get sick, and then they start biting. And he's like, Friday night, September 26, 2003. That's when the biting starts. He says by Monday everything was gone. So it's just incredibly fast and terrifying if anything like this was to ever happen. We get this scene there next where we find some roadside bones, and he's basically telling her about how the military, Fedra came in and like set up these quarantine camps, but if there's not enough room, they would just round up all the citizens and take them outside and just shoot them because dead people can't get infected. So survival of the fittest. Excuse me. Um, but then get a flashback scene to September 30th of 2003, so a few days after, and we see Bill, not not worried. He's down in a bunker underground underneath the house, and he's watching all the police or all the Fedra guys round up all the people of the village, and he literally says, "Not today, you New World Order jackboot fucks." And so we get this long sequence that plays out, which is brilliant because we see him. He's a prepper. He's a survivalist. He's got sulfuric acid, weapons, workshop, all sorts of shit underground. A secret engine's coming out to the house. He's gas masked up, shotgun at the ready, armed to the teeth. And I'm loving the fact that they got Nick Offerman to come do this because he just crushed this. Just really crushed it. He was also epic in Devs. I'm loving to see him do dramatic roles now. But then his shit-eating grin as he realizes the military has evacuated everyone and he has access to the whole town. So he goes out and gets an ammo, he gets a boat, he gets more supplies, and he starts preparing on an even larger scale and starts planting gardens and having chickens and butchering his own meat. This guy plans on surviving. And next thing we know, it's and by the way, the dinner scene too, where he's like eating dinner with a steak and wine and like watching an infected trigger one of his traps. It's just really brilliant. But then we flash forward to 4 years later, and someone has fallen into one of his pits, and it turns out it's some scared shitless dude from the Baltimore QZ, which is gone. He says. Bill checks him with the Fedra analyzer, and he checks out as clean. And now there's this negotiation sequence where this guy, who we come to find out is Frank, wants food and shelter. And ultimately, Bill finally shows compassion, and he's feeling awkward as hell about it. And he's freaking out about the level of food. He's like, "This is real food, and there's wine, and what the fuck, you know?" And Bill's like, "Everything tastes better when you're starving." And then we get this little bit of flirtation over the wine pairing with the duck. Bill's pulling his hair out of his face. Frank sees the piano, finds books. Turns out that he knows music, but he's not very good. Frank has him. Excuse me. Frank has. Excuse me. Bill has Frank stop playing, and sits down and plays the rest of it. But he's terrified of the keys. I don't think he's touched them in a long time, but it's also been 4 years of living completely alone. And it turns out here there's this sequence where Frank's asking about who's the girl you're singing about, and he's like, "There ever was a girl," and Frank's like, "I know," and kisses him, and you get this moment of sheer loneliness that you can imagine Bill must have been feeling for 4 years all by himself, and then this guy shows up, and now they're both crying, and I'm crying, and it was a lovely scene. Definitely Bill's first time, super powerful. And then we get flash forward to 3 years later, and they're arguing, and Frank's yelling at him about living in a bunker, and he wants to paint the house and mow the lawn and make the town pretty again. And they're fighting about resources and et cetera, et cetera. And he's been talking to somebody on the radio, and it turns out that it's Tess. So we meet Joel and Tess at a lunch with Frank and Bill here. And there's this whole freak out scene where Frank's really upset about new people being here, and Joel basically negotiates with with Bill, while Frank takes Tess inside, and he's like, "You a prepper or something?" And Bill's like, "I'm a survivalist." And this whole thing about Joel saying, "I can get you things from the QZ and etc. You can help us with having a waypoint here." And Joel leaves him a warning as they'll even talk about how Fedra might not come up here, but the Raiders will come at some point. And that's where um, I thought maybe, kind of we were going to be getting into the game territory. But this is where they decided to completely rewrite Bill's character entirely. And the way this is done, and I'm still somewhat kind of confused about it because I could swear I saw promo shots of them, especially of Ellie, interacting with Bill in like some of the trailers and previews. I could swear I saw those. And I need to go out there now. It's late at night and I'm tired and I've just watched this, but I could swear I saw some trailers and stuff. But in any case, the way this happens is some more time passes. There's a rainy night that happens. There's raiders. Um, they've got tools and equipment. Traps are going off. Frank wakes up alone, screaming for Bill. Bill's outside, shooting him. He ends up getting shot. There's a surgery sequence. Here's a copy of the keys, call Joel, etc. And then we flash forward to 10 years later to 2023, and they're both old men. Frank's in a wheelchair, painting, trying to eat, sippy cup with a straw, needs his pills, too weak, can't do anything for himself. And he eventually tells Bill that this is it. I'm done. This is my last day. You're going to give me a good day tomorrow. You're going to, or today, excuse me. You're going to give me a good day. You're going to make me toast. You're going to take me to the boutique. You're going to marry me. And then you're going to crush these all up and put them in my wine. Take me to our bed. And I'll fall asleep in your arms. And I'm getting emotional again watching this episode. But then Bill does all these things. But then he puts the entire thing into the wine. And they both drink it together. And then fade. And we're back to Joel and Ellie rolling up. And they notice right away that something's not right because Joel's like, the flowers aren't tended. The door's not locked. There's a note from Bill along with a key. Don't come upstairs into the bedroom. I just I was a little bit confused. I'm still a little bit confused because I swear, and I may go look it up while we're on stream here, while we're doing this video. In any case, it appears like they're not going to have Bill interact with them in the show, and I guess this is the moment when Joel decides that I'm going to take you. If we're going to do this, though, there are rules. You can never bring up Tess. You never tell anyone about your condition, and you do what I say when I say it. And then they're down in the bunker, stashing things and stocking up and taking showers, and then they're off into the truck, rolling off down the road. And I'm totally looking this up real quick. Dun, 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 dun. I must just be remembering and thinking about the video game, and maybe I've seen some of the footage from the remastered version, and it's triggering a memory in my mind. But anyway, we got a different Bill story here, and they rewrote the Bill and Frank story completely. I think it works. I think it's the most powerful performance of Offerman's career. Like, this was an intense one episode shot at portraying a tortured individual who's just sheer, looking for companionship and being starved of that companionship for so long. And there's a beautiful line of dialogue that was written in here, and I don't have it exactly written out, but it was something along the lines of, in his note that he wrote to Joel at the end of the episode, he's like, I used to hate the world and I was happy when everyone died, and then I met Frank and I realized all I was looking for was someone to save. And so I'm happy I could at least save him. And this is kind of the same terminology that Tess said to Joel about save who you can. So I thought this was a nice way to bring that back around and kind of cement in Joel's head that he's going to save this girl as he gives her this speech about, hey, my brother's out west. I got to find my brother. My brother was once a Firefly. He'll know the people that can get you where you need to go. So now they're off to find his brother. So interesting spin. I think it's definitely, this is why I love when the original creators and directors and etc. Are involved in productions like they are here, because it allows them to do an adaptation and make a twist on things. And since they're the creator, we don't have any room to say that, well, they just don't understand the source material and they're doing it all wrong. They know the source material because they created the source material, and I fully approve of creative decisions like this when they're making adaptations to give us a slightly different story, especially for a character like Bill, who is just there for a brief moment before they're off onto other things. So if you like this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Support if you can. Super chats, super stickers. Don't forget the memberships down below, Patreon page, Discord links are all down there. See everybody in the next episode. Until then, stay safe.